Brandon Walton's coming on from Texas Scorecard. And Brandon Walton's, we're going to have like a Christmas party or a birthday party or something because I'm tired of having you on for these horrible stories. But this is just brutal. And we're not clapping for the video here. We're clapping for Brandon Walton's and Texas Scorecard. There was a fight at a junior high in Bedford. And the fight's pretty bad. There's one kid on top of the other one just wailing on him, ground and pound. And what most people seem to be upset about is not only were none of the kids interceding, there were a couple of adults that were just kind of halfway trying to stop the fight. And it ends up worse because when they finally do pull him up, as they pull him up, he decides to stomp on the kid's head and knocks him unconscious. And we're talking about in junior high. What's going on here? Are we pressing charges on this or not, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. This video, I saw the video going around. It's pretty shocking. It's a pretty bad-looking fight. Like you mentioned, I mean, there's stomping on the head. Very, very violent. To my understanding, now, some of the details haven't been released because both of the participants are minors and the police protect that information, but essentially both of them have been taken to the Tarrant County Juvenile Justice Center, and they're being dealt with there. But I think the shocking thing in this video, just like you pointed out, is the fact that, okay, you've got some other kids sort of watching it happen. That's not necessarily unexpected, but the adults there don't seem to be doing a lot either. Now, to be fair, we've seen some of these instances of fights and violence in schools from students. And some teachers, some people who work in schools tell me that their hands are sometimes tied by different laws and different rules as far as what they can do to stop these incidents and what they can do to stop them before they happen. And so there's some talk this session about what's being called a teacher's bill of rights, essentially allowing more disciplinary action before things get to this level. Now, would that have stopped this? I don't know. But certainly that's something I have heard from some of the good teachers that we do have working in these schools.
And I feel like very emotional about this, so much so like after I watch the video, I don't even want to comment on it until I calm down. So it's easy for me to pop off here, but like for one of the teachers, he had a coffee mug in his left hand and it had a lid on it or whatever. And so he didn't even put the coffee down. He kind of walked over and with one arm was kind of pushing one. So he was like, "Hey buddy, why don't we quit this now?" Instead of like grabbing him by his shirt and pulling him off. It seemed like these aren't grown-ups. It seems like this would be pretty easy to end a fight for a grown man, and the effort just wasn't there. So am I putting too much on these teachers, or do they have some sort of moral, ethical, legal responsibility to end these or put forth a little more effort?
No, I think that I'd like to think that if I was there, I would have been just like you. I would have stopped this right away. It's hard to imagine sitting around and watching this happen. What I'm saying is that I think that, unfortunately, cases like these are pretty common. They're becoming more common where you have these violent incidents in schools that are led by the students. And so, obviously, when we've been on before, we talk a lot about some of the illegal incidents that we've seen teachers lead in. But there is another side to this, which is that there are students that are involved in these incidents as well. And, both are wrong, but it's even more, I think, shocking when you see adults, administrators, staff, whoever they are at the school, not taking a more active approach in stopping these to begin with.
What are you hearing from people who comment on the story? Because there's so many ways that you could lash out when you see this, but I realize it just doesn't sound logical. Like, hey, how come no one's raising their kids to like intervene when they see someone else getting their face smashed in? It's like I don't know. What are other people saying?
Well, exactly. Or why is it, we have video of this incident in the first place, right? And why are they circulating online? We've sort of become a society. This is a broader problem, right? But almost a society where we'd rather film incidents happen and share them than actually do anything to stop them. I think that's kind of its own separate cultural can of worms there and issues that need to be worked through. But I think in the near-term sense, I think what we have to do is we have to make sure that we have and I don't know the full extent of, like I said, this situation, what would have stopped this situation. A lot of the details are not being shared at this time with the public. But I think broadly speaking, when you look at these violent incidents in schools, we need to make sure that we're empowering these administrators, schools, et cetera, to actually be able to to stop these. Now, I think the people sitting around there could have done something to stop it. But anything that we could have done to maybe make it to where this fight didn't happen to begin with, I'd have to imagine that in a lot of these cases, these are students that already had disciplinary issues, that already had reason that they probably shouldn't have been in the classroom, probably should have been in school suspension or something like that. You just hate to see videos like this, especially when you're dealing with, I mean, these are, like you said, these are junior high students.
Yeah, they don't look like junior high students. They look like high school students. But the other thing, I might be bugging you later on in the week here at Texas Scorecard. Y'all sent your reporter, who's been on the James Show a few times, Erin Anderson. She's at today's Collin County Commissioners Court meeting where County Judge Chris Hill's having a public hearing about the Epic City, the Sharia city that's proposed for East Collin County. And when I was reading your breakdown, the event happened this morning. I don't even know if it's over yet, so I'm looking forward to your write-up either later today or tomorrow. But I didn't realize that this was something that was happening in other areas, in our area. There's one in Blue Ridge. There's another one. Mm-hmm. Where was that other one? Y'all had a few. Aubrey. Yeah. There's a McKinney Islamic Association was trying to rezone some acres last year on Virginia Parkway. So this isn't like a one-off. This is a dedicated pattern where they're trying in several places to make Sharia cities all of a sudden. Has this always been going on, or they just start all these projects within the recent time?
A lot of these projects seem pretty recent. Part of it just due to, I'd say, the influx and change of demographics in the area, specifically up in Collin County, that kind of north part of the Metroplex where a lot of these are being proposed. But, at the same time, it's been very interesting. Just over the past week, we've seen, I think, 4 or 5 different investigations launched into the East Plano Islamic Center, the group behind this proposed development. Just today, Governor Abbott called on the Texas Rangers to investigate. And so, I think that there's potentially some shady practices going on with this. Hopefully we'll learn more. I believe the meeting is ongoing. Aaron's at the meeting right now following it. I believe it's still ongoing, and we'll see what comes out of this commissioners meeting. But I hope we get some more information on this because I have heard from so many folks who live up there that are concerned and that want answers.
Well, thank you very much for sending a reporter out there and keeping us abreast of all these other things that a lot of times the media just likes to ignore for convenience sake. Brandon Waltons, Texas Scorecard. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Find his work, TexasScorecard.com. And I'll probably be reading from him tomorrow or the next day about what the results of this epic meeting that's happening in Collin County right now. But I want to ask you, you're a parent. What would you do if that was your kid with some other bigger kid on top of him, beating the snot out of him, pounding his face in while all the kids stand around? And then a couple of teachers just kind of lackadaisical, just very lazy in their attempt to break it up, and it ends up with your kid getting his head stomped into the concrete and him getting knocked unconscious. What would you do? Would you go have a chat with the other kids' fathers? Would you go have a chat with the teachers? Would you have a message for all the parents of the kids who sat around and watched your kid get his face pounded into the sidewalk? Would you sue the school? Would you have some words for the principal? What would you do? Because I don't know what I would do. I would go nuts if that was me. I don't know. I don't advocate the breaking of laws, but I'd be hard pressed to not. If you haven't seen the viral video of the fight from some junior high in Bedford, it's pretty brutal. It'll kind of ruin your day. If you're in a good mood, it'll temper that a little bit. And I don't know, I'm a parent, so immediately I start thinking, what if that was my kid? However, I also try and put myself in like a different pair of shoes here. Like, what if this was old James before I had kids? Well, then I would be thinking, well, what if that was me in that fight and the teachers didn't do much or the other students just stood around? And then I'm like, well, that doesn't have to be very hypothetical. I know I sound like a nice guy now, but I kind of got into quite a few fights when I was growing up. Got into a few fights in junior high. And the level of brutality here is past that. I think there was only there was 2 fights in high school where I saw someone get knocked unconscious even for a second. So I never saw anyone get knocked unconscious in junior high. Like, I saw a guy take a real big hit on the football field and took him a few seconds to wake up, but nothing like this. So I think it's the level of brutality that seizes you in this one, coupled with the inaction of not just the kids, because that's kind of excusable and they didn't know it was going to end like that, but really the adults. And so now Like, if that is your kid, what do you do? What's the right reaction? Because I've never crossed that before. I have 4 kids. Yeah, a couple of them have been in a fight, but nothing nearly like this. And so I never had the instance where I had to go confront another parent or go confront. I don't know, man. Like, your visceral reaction, if you're a parent, is to go knock that kid off, right? But now you can't do that. I wouldn't advocate doing that. That's a terrible visceral reaction to have. So I'm not endorsing it or glorifying it or anything. I'm just saying, like, your animal instincts are to go do something about whoever just beat up your kid, regardless of their demographics. So what would you do if that was your kid? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Here's what I think after I calmed down and had a day to think about it and got to sleep on it. I would have a talk with both of those teachers. I would have a talk with the principal. I would have a talk with both that kid and that kid's parents, especially the dad, if there's a dad in the picture. And I think I could cut it off at that. I think that would at least make me feel better. And maybe, like, this won't happen. Next time this happens, we'll get a better result. I'm not sure about this. You know, I'm so cocksure about half the stuff I talk about on the show. Not this one. This is another James in Rockwall. What would you do if this was your kid in the Bedford junior high fight video?
Well, I would definitely, as a parent, want, the punishment to be dealt out accordingly as it needs to be done, charges, whatever needs to be done, to the students or to the parties involved. But I'm actually a teacher, and I could shed a little light on, what teachers have to deal with these. We're actually trained to, intervene very little in fights like this, especially if they break out, the more violent they are. I've had friends fired because they broke up a fight in a school. So it's almost one of those things where you don't know exactly what to do. You're just trying to look out for the kids that are involved and, just protect who's in the room. You move kids away and you find a safe opening to try and break it apart because, you don't want to lose your job over, trying to stop 2 kids from fighting each other.
Well, do I sound like a jerk when I was like, you got to just go over there and grab that kid by his shirt and pull him off? It's just a kid. You can stop him. You're a grown man. You outweigh him by 100 pounds. You could have ended this in a second. Is that just easier said than done?
Yes, on pencil and paper, absolutely. Yeah. But everybody has that reaction, like a gut feeling reaction. Like once you see it break out, your instant reaction is, okay, I got to stop this right now. But then you have to think, okay, how am I going to stop them? Do I need to wait for the SRO? Do I need to, when's the right opportune moment where I'm not going to harm a kid, pulling a kid off versus, risking myself as well. And so it's just one of those gut calls that people have to take, but there's really nothing you can do in a matter of 15 seconds.
Is that a baby? You got a baby over there?
Yeah, my kid's talking to me.
That's adorable. All right. Well, thanks for having a cute background noise. Thank you, James and Rockwall. I appreciate your perspective on this one. Let's go to Glenn, I believe. He's been there for the longest. This is Glenn calling from all the way down in Killeen. Hey, Glenn, thanks for calling WBAP. What would you do?
I think that both the teachers or whoever was there, the teachers should be either reprimanded or fired. And back when we were fighting, when I was a kid like you, in high school, we fought. When somebody was getting the best of somebody, we broke it up.
Right.
The fight is won. You won. You're done. There's no need stomping the guy's head into the ground. So
yeah. So what do we do about that? Because there's no school policy or law you could pass to fix that.
No,
do I just
should be charged with full assault?
Hey, parents of the HEB, or really any parents who have kids in high school, teach your sons to break up fights, especially when they get out of hand and one-sided.
That's what we did.
Let's not just have. Because we did the instant circle of spectators whenever a fight would break out.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
it was all just in our dumb hick brains, like our instincts. And you're right. The second someone got knocked down, or really the appearance of blood showed up because someone would get a bloody nose.
Some guy won, we broke it up.
Well, and it's also like in Dazed and Confused when the guy is theorizing about the bully that picks on him. He's like, look, man, if I just go up to him at the party, I punch him, sure, I'll get the first lick in and there might be a fight, but the herd will break it up almost immediately. And they didn't. They just watched them get pegged because that's not based on nothing. All right. Dazed and Confused reference. You get bonus points for that. What would you do if it was your kid on that Bedford Junior High fight video? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Jean-Jacques Taylor joins the James Show to give you a sports report. But, James, this is the sports station. I know, but on WBAP, we're going to give you the sports that you need to know without having to watch all those games. So, Jean-Jacques Taylor, welcome back to the James Show. And let's start with the biggest headline is March Madness. We're down to the Final Four. And for the second time in history, all one seeds. What does the casual sports fan need to know about this?
That this should be some of the best basketball you've seen all year, because a guy named Ken Pomeroy has been rating college basketball teams for probably more than 30 years. And up until a few years ago, they used to use his ratings to determine the seeds in the NCAA tournament. Well, these four teams in the Final Four this year have four of the highest rankings of all time on his board. So basically, these are four of the best college basketball teams in NCAA history. And so, it doesn't really get any better than that. Big on big, good on good. It should be great.
Well, and you got the legacy team in there, Duke. You got the locals somewhat with Houston. And then what else? We got Auburn and Florida. So
we ain't claiming Houston and Dallas. Come on, man.
Wow, it's close. It's the closest thing we've got.
We don't root for the Astros. We don't root for the Texans.
I do root for the Texans. I have to root for
I got to slap you on the wrist for that, dog.
Jean-Jacques, they named the team after me. I'm a Texan. They named it after me. I feel some sort of responsibility. Okay, so...
Nah, man. You can ride with Kelvin Sampson and some of the players, but just to watch Houston win, it's hard to get down with that.
Well, I was a huge Deshaun Watson fan. That couldn't go wrong. I'm just playing. So let's talk about the big guys. In Dallas, we also have the Mavericks. Are they in the playoffs, or are they done, or what?
The Mavericks will either be the 9th seed, the 10th seed, or not in the playoffs. They got a game-and-a-half lead over Sacramento for the 10th spot. They're not going to. They really have no chance to get up to 7 or 8. So, but man, they traded Luka. It's kind of a lost season. I will say this. I told a friend of mine this the other day. I don't think Jason Kidd has got enough credit for how hard this team has played, despite all the distractions. Not just the Luka trade, but the injuries.
Ton of injuries, yeah.
Ridiculous. And now they're not a team. Okay, they're not a good team right now because they're missing an all-star caliber player in Kyrie Irving. But they're going to get Gafford back. They're going to get Lively back. They're going to have Anthony Davis. And they're not necessarily a team that you want to deal with because they got a lot of height, a lot of athleticism, a lot of rim protection, and they play hard. And so even if they're in the play-in tournament, I expect it to be a tough out, and I think Jason Kidd's done a heck of a job given all the things his team's had to endure this year.
All right, what about the Stars? They seem to be riding high on their wave from last year and continuing it, unlike the Mavericks. Their playoff chances, what are they the top seed?
No, they are 4 points behind Winnipeg last I checked, which was a couple of days ago. The Stars are 5-0-2 in their last 7 games, despite playing good but not great hockey. But let's face it, man, for the Stars, it's really a couple busts. You know what I mean? They got a great team. Winnipeg has a great team. They're probably going to face Colorado in the first round. There are no freebies. They're going to have to earn it. But when they added Ratnan a couple of weeks ago, he's one of the elite players in the league. They have everything they need to win. It's not going to be easy, but they're capable of winning the Cup just like they were last year.
So let's talk about the Cowboys. Have we been making any good moves in the offseason?
They signed Osa Odighizuwa a couple of weeks ago. Michael Parsons wants a $200 million deal. He's going to get it. It's just a matter of how long it takes them to get it. The draft is coming up in a few weeks, I think at the end of the month. And so it's kind of all quiet on the Cowboys front right now.
I hear you. All right, then the Rangers, they won the series 2 years ago. They laid an egg last season. What are they doing this season, Jean-Jacques?
Off to a really good start, 3-1 against a really good Boston team. Jacob deGrom is really the key to the season to me. If he can he hadn't pitched more than 92 innings since 2019. If he can give them 18 starts and maybe 120, 130 innings, they'll have a chance to get to the playoffs. And I'm just here to tell you, if they got Eovaldi and a healthy deGrom, on a rotation, there's nobody who wants to deal with them in the playoffs because they're gonna be able to take care of business.
All right, Jean-Jacques Taylor, how can they find your work outside of WBAP?
You can always check me out at jjtmediagroup.com.